One day, I received a call from my son. Where is Dad right now? Do you need something? Your father is now working at the head office and staying in the company's dormitory for singles. Alex remained silent for a while, then hesitantly started speaking. There's no dormitory for singles at Dad's company. Why do you know such a thing, Alex? According to Alex's explanation, he had attended a job fair while job hunting. My husband's company was also there, and he remembered other students asking if there was a dormitory. Why did he lie about going to a dormitory? I felt uneasy. Alex's silence continued. Do you know something, Alex? It's a bit hard to say, but it seems like Dad is having an affair. Are you sure you didn't mistake him for someone else? I understand how you feel, Mom, but it was definitely Dad. Now it was my turn to be silent. I didn't know what to say. My hand was trembling as I gripped the phone. I am Michelle Brown, 43, a homemaker. I live with my husband Steve, 45. Our son Alex, 23, left home when he started university. We get along well with my in-laws, who visit our home from time to time. I heard from a friend that especially the mother-in-law dislikes coming to the house. I don't mind it, and it's nice to have a chat. My father-in-law Dan, 68, and mother-in-law, Kathy, 67, also get along well and often go out together. They never miss their daily walks for health reasons. Today, my in-laws came to visit after buying cake from a nearby sweet shop during their walk. I love those cake, so my cheeks relaxed without realizing it. I brewed some top-quality coffee for my in-laws and enjoyed the cake with them. Eating delicious food makes everyone smile. Alex called the other day too. Seems he's doing well. I wonder if he's managing well as a working adult. I'm worried. Alex will be fine. He's responsible and considerate, so everyone likes him. I hope so. Michelle, you need to let go a little. I understand you're worried, but Alex is a grown man now. Alex has always been close to his grandparents. Even during his university days, he regularly contacted his grandparents. He's considerate towards others. He always calls at 8:50 p.m. I wondered why that was. Noticing my curiosity, my father-in-law started to explain. Most likely, he knows we watch dramas starting at 9 p.m. So he calls during the commercials. Calling after 9 p.m. would be inconvenient as we'd be watching the drama. I thought that made sense. He's considerate like that. I thought he must be doing well at his company too. That night, I told my husband about his parents' visit. However, his reaction was lukewarm. I sarcastically thought he might still be in his rebellious phase. My husband doesn't seem to get along with his parents. Is that so? That was all he said, and the conversation did not continue. My in-laws are easygoing and soft-spoken. It's hard to believe my husband came from these parents. While we were dating, he always smiled and was always a gentleman. He always walked on the roadside when we were walking. But my husband changed drastically after we got married. His tone became arrogant, almost as if he was saying, "I'm the one supporting you." Was it my fault for being deceived, or was I foolish for not seeing through him? Now, the only thing keeping us together is our child. But unusually, my husband was in a good mood today. I got assigned to the head office this spring. Finally, my luck is turning around. That's great to hear. I was also pleased for another reason. If his salary increased, he might give me more for living expenses. My husband only gives me the living expenses and manages the money himself. I don't even know how much my husband earns. Until now, the living expenses were just enough, and we had no spare money. I thought this would allow us to live a bit more comfortably. But his next words shattered that thought. I've decided to move into the company's dormitory for a while. It's too far to commute from here, and renting a room costs money. I completely agreed with his decision to live alone. Since you'll be alone, I'll reduce the money a bit. I have my own living expenses too, so this should be enough, right? The amount he mentioned was less than half of what it is now. That wouldn't be enough even for one person to live on. If you don't have enough money, you can do part-time work or whatever you like. I was speechless. You don't have to come see me. It's a waste of train fare, and the dormitory doesn't allow women. I had no intention of visiting, but more than that, living on less than half the expenses was unimaginable. You're getting promoted, right? Why would you decrease the living expenses? That's odd. I didn't say I wouldn't give you living expenses. So, you don't need them, right? Faced with that response, all I could do was fall silent. Who would want to visit such a terrible husband? But I hadn't realized that this was a cunning tactic to discourage me from visiting him. Reluctantly, I decided to get a part-time job. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be able to afford my own meals. It was my first time visiting the employment office. Many people were there looking for jobs. I printed out the details of a company that interested me and waited for my turn. I must have waited nearly an hour before it was finally my turn. They contacted the employer for me. They said they could interview me immediately. The office was only one train station away from my home, which made commuting convenient. The place I visited, based on the address, was a small office in a multi-tenant building. When I knocked and entered, the office was quite different from what I had imagined. It had a homely atmosphere. The person who interviewed me was very pleasant. He introduced himself as Ted Morris. He was just my type. I honestly told him that I had not worked since getting married and was nervous about it. No one here is too strict, and if there's anything, just let me know. After some simple questions, they said they would contact me later, and I left the office. I soon received a call offering me the job. The job was simple clerical work. And the senior woman who would teach me the ropes was also very friendly. Especially Ted, who interviewed me, was considerate towards me and made sure to speak to me often. He seemed to be about the same age as me, and very easy to talk to. On the way home, we stopped at a cafe for coffee, and I decided to enjoy my solo life. However, it was a mistake to inform my husband of my new situation. The freedom I had just found was quickly taken away. My husband continued to bind me. He would call home in the evening. If I didn't answer, he would nag the next day, asking why I hadn't. Moreover, even if I answered once, he would call again irregularly after an hour or 30 minutes, 2 or 3 times. I couldn't take it anymore. I became unable to leave the house in the evening. He intended to never give me freedom. Then one day, I received a call from Alex. Where is Dad right now? Do you need something? Your father is now working at the head office and staying in the company's dormitory for singles. Alex remained silent for a while, then hesitantly started speaking. There's no dormitory for singles at Dad's company. Why do you know such a thing, Alex? According to Alex's explanation, he had attended a job fair while job hunting. His father's company was also there, and other students had asked if there was a dormitory. According to the company's representative, there was no dormitory. But they did offer housing assistance. Why did he lie about going to a dormitory? I felt uneasy. Alex's silence continued. Do you know something, Alex? It's a bit hard to say, but it seems like Dad is having an affair. Just as he started talking, he began to say something unbelievable. He had been making sales calls with his senior that day. Next, we're going to this company. The company his senior pointed to was the one where his father worked. It seemed possible that he might run into his father. He wondered what kind of face he should make if they met. My husband and Alex did not get along well. They had been on bad terms since Alex's rebellious teenage years. Today's visit was just to greet the sales department manager. The meeting ended quickly. It was already past 5 in the evening. His senior said he was heading straight home and that Alex could go home too. Though Alex didn't get along with his father. He thought he might have business dealings with him and decided to greet him as a working adult. It was unclear if he would meet Alex, but he waited in front of the company to see his father come out. When he saw someone who looked like his father, he was about to call out. However, a young woman ran after his father. His father, who he had never seen so happy at home, started walking with the woman, both beaming. Alex thought something was suspicious and hid. The woman appeared to be about the same age as Alex. She was beautiful and well-dressed. Unnoticed by Alex, his father and the woman headed towards the nightlit streets. They entered a high-end restaurant, and after about an hour, they moved to a trendy bar. Following them felt like being a detective, but he had to make sure not to be discovered. Moreover, it was challenging to stay there for a long time without seeming unnatural. And now the problem arises. Unfortunately, the two disappeared into a hotel. I was shaken by Alex's story. Are you sure you didn't mistake him for someone else? I understand how you feel, Mom, but it was definitely Dad. Now it was my turn to be silent. I couldn't find the words to say. My hand trembled as I held the receiver. My husband was having an affair. And with a woman as young as our son. My mind went blank. Mom, are you okay? I'll take care of this, so just pretend you don't know for a while. Do you have a plan?
Yeah.
I won't let Dad get away with this. I won't let him make you sad. I was relieved by Alex's strong words. The only one I could rely on now was my son. It has been nearly a month since then. During that time, there was no contact from Alex, and I became anxious about what had happened. The regular calls from my husband continued as usual. I wanted to confront him about the affair, but I didn't say anything, just as Alex had instructed. The thought of him going to a hotel with a young woman, not much older than Alex, made my head spin with anger. In my dreams, the two of them would mock me. You're no longer needed, old woman. Go away. Don't show up in front of us. I don't want to see your gloomy face anymore. How many times have I had the same dream? Each time, I would wake up from nightmares. I even found myself dozing off at work. Michelle, you look pale. Are you feeling ill? I haven't been able to sleep well lately, and I'm suffering from sleep deprivation. Sounds like insomnia. Is there something worrying you? I couldn't tell the truth and only managed to give vague responses. While living through these unsatisfying days, I received a delightful call from Alex. He wanted to throw a party because he bought presents for everyone with his first paycheck. It seems he wants to give the presents at his grandparents' house this weekend. You didn't have to go through the trouble, but I'm happy. It made me realize that Alex has really become an adult. I can't give anything grand, but please look forward to it. He didn't bring up my husband's affair. I hesitated to dampen the mood of the celebration, so I didn't mention it. I went to my in-laws' house early on the day to help prepare the party food. It seems like just yesterday he was carrying a backpack to school. And now he's already working. Time flies so fast. That's why we age so quickly. It feels like Alex was just born the other day. I can really relate to what the in-laws are saying. My husband is supposed to come today as well. It's been months since we've seen each other. Should I confront him about the affair? I'm torn. I laid out the food I made with my mother-in-law on the table. The doorbell rang, and it was Alex. You're early. Grandpa and Grandma have been waiting for you. Seeing Alex after a long time, he seemed a bit more grown up. Indeed, entering society seemed to have matured him. You must be tired. Come in and relax. The grandparents were clearly overjoyed to have Alex visit. My father-in-law even came out to greet him at the entrance. It's good to see everyone is well. Thank you for preparing everything today. Alex was surrounded by us and led into the living room. While I was preparing drinks for everyone, Alex was bombarded with questions. Have you gotten used to your job? Are your seniors treating you well? Are you eating properly? The grandparents had a lot of questions and fired them rapidly. Alex answered all the questions without showing any annoyance. My senior takes good care of me, and I'm gradually being given more responsibilities. I get along with everyone, and we have proper meals in the dorm, so don't worry. Knowing that Alex was fitting in well at his company seemed to reassure the grandparents. Still, Steve is late. The food will get cold. Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. The doorbell rang again. Sure enough, it was my husband. Sorry, I'm late. Work just wouldn't end. Dinner started. I made dishes that were Alex's favorites. He kept saying how delicious everything was. In contrast, my husband ate with a sullen expression. After the meal, we moved to the living room. Finally, it was time for Alex to give out his presents. First, this is for Grandma and Grandpa. What was handed to my father-in-law was a long box tied with a ribbon. What could this be? I'll open it now. Please do. It's something Grandpa has been wanting. It was a fountain pen from a famous international brand. My father-in-law often had occasions to write, and I had heard him expressing his admiration for this pen. I was impressed that Alex remembered such conversations. For Grandma, it was a sandalwood fan with delicate designs carved into it. It looked very luxurious. It's a must-have for the summer. Please be careful of heat stroke. The grandparents had tears glistening in their eyes. I'll cherish and use it well. I'll treasure it. Just make sure you don't keep it tucked away in a drawer. It's pointless if you don't use it. I understand. I'll make sure to use it. And this is for you, Mom. It was an elegant brooch. Let's go shopping together next time. I'll help you find a dress that matches this brooch. I felt tears welling up again. My husband watched us with a cold gaze. What do you have for me? I'm looking forward to it. Alex's expression suddenly changed. Dad, this is for you. Alex handed over a large envelope. My husband looked puzzled and spread its contents on the table. Several photos emerged. As soon as he saw the photos, the color drained from my husband's face. My husband frantically tried to hide the photos, but it was already too late. What is this? Steve, it's nothing. It's just a prank by Alex, right? My husband glared at Alex. It's not a prank. There's a report inside the envelope. Alex pulled out a report from the envelope. It detailed my husband's actions meticulously. The affair partner was Claire Johnson, 24, a woman from the same department as my husband. What are you doing? To have an affair with a woman not much older than your son, are you out of your mind? Faced with my father-in-law's angry voice, my husband shrank back. Normally a mild-mannered person, his anger was terrifying when roused. Using your salary for this, you should spend it on something better. My husband couldn't come up with an excuse and started shouting nonsensically. It's Dad's fault for spending money on this. Apologize to Mom. My mother-in-law burst into tears. It's my fault for raising a son like this. Please forgive me, Michelle. My mother-in-law apologized. It's not your fault, Mother. I have my faults too. You haven't done anything wrong, Mother. Steve, explain yourself. Seemingly resigned, my husband began to talk about his affair partner. Claire Johnson had joined the company the year before last. My husband was assigned as her mentor for the new employees. While my husband was gruff at home, he always played the part of a friendly man with a constant smile outside. It was only a matter of time before Claire fell for him. It seemed she found young men unsatisfactory. Claire's attraction to the slightly bad boy older man was influenced by her family background. She was raised in a single-mother home. Perhaps she longed for a father figure. Or maybe she was waiting for my husband's invitation. They quickly became involved. It appears true that he got transferred to the main office. They started living together in an apartment. To afford the apartment, my living expenses were cut. Apparently, he worried that I would have an affair since he was having one. This led to those persistent evening calls. Although he was having an affair, he couldn't stand the idea of me doing the same. I find it a completely selfish way of thinking. Not that I had any intention of having an affair. I'm cutting ties with you. I'll get Michelle a good lawyer and make you and your affair partner pay as much compensation as possible. Get out of this house right now. Driven by my father-in-law's anger, my husband fled. My in-laws kept apologizing profusely. Michelle, you don't need to worry about anything. We'll take care of everything, including financial support. You don't have to do that. Alex is here, too. Right, Grandpa doesn't need to do anything. No, let me handle this. I won't be satisfied otherwise. Michelle, let us take care of it. In reality, I couldn't even afford a lawyer, so I had to rely on their offer. Things went smoothly thereafter. It seemed that my husband was completely smitten with Claire. He was willing to lose everything as long as he had Claire. During the divorce negotiations, financial abuse was recognized. And not only compensation but also a settlement was increased. Money that hadn't been properly given for living expenses and other things was added to a considerable amount. After paying those compensation, my husband was left with almost no money. The house was obtained as part of the divorce settlement. The condition was that the mortgage must be paid, but the in-laws offered to pay it as an apology. Compensation was also claimed against the affair partner, Claire. Claire, who had dreams and had been saving money, had to use it all for compensation. This was a considerable shock to her. Steve refused to advance her the compensation payment. Even if he wanted to help, he didn't have the money. Claire felt as if her dreams had been devoured. Mentally broken, she quit her job and returned to her family home. I'm not responsible for Claire's breakdown, but it pains my heart. I regret having demanded compensation from Claire in anger. Mom, you shouldn't worry about this. There's nothing you can do anyway. You just have to forget about it. Alex is right. But my heart is still in pain. Our family home is on a remote island, and it's not easy for Steve to visit. Also, in such a small village, I don't know what kind of rumors would start if Steve came. It seems I was emphatically told not to come. Now that we're divorced, Steve, bearing that name, is nothing more than a stranger to me. Whether he lives alone in an apartment has nothing to do with me. We should each live our own lives. But Steve's clingy nature is exasperating. It was my fault. Let's get back together. I realized your value only after losing you. Claire was just a fling. Time and again, Steve calls. These days I let him talk and then hang up without saying a word. From his talks, it seems his room has become quite dirty. Once, he sent me a photo of his room. It felt like I could smell the stench coming from the screen. I deleted it immediately. I've been kicked out of sales. I keep messing up, and people say my clothes smell. It's all your fault. Thinking about how I was married to such a man makes me feel sick. How are you going to take responsibility? It's ridiculous that I, who was once the top in sales, am now being sent to the company archives. It's like they're telling me to quit. Can't he see that everything is his fault? How much does he need to blame others to be satisfied? Is Steve even capable of rational thought anymore? One day, I received another call from Steve. I'm coming over tonight. Be ready. The call ended abruptly. I was trembling. What should I do? I didn't know what Steve might do. Hesitantly, I called Alex. I'm on a business trip right now. I'll handle it, so lock the front door and don't go outside under any circumstances. Even though he said he would handle it, Alex was on a business trip. What could he do? Nevertheless, I locked all the doors in the house and secured the front door with a chain. It became night. I was too scared to turn on any lights. As I was jittery, the doorbell suddenly rang. I jumped in shock. There was a loud banging on the door. I know you're there. Open up. Hearing Steve's yelling, I crouched down trembling. Then I heard voices arguing outside. After a while, silence returned. The doorbell rang again. On the monitor, I saw my father-in-law. I rushed to the door and opened it. You can relax now. I've driven Steve away. Relieved, I collapsed in tears. My father-in-law, followed by my mother-in-law, came in. Don't worry anymore. We won't let him come near you again. I invited my in-laws inside. While serving them coffee, I expressed my gratitude. Michelle, you shouldn't apologize. We're to blame for raising such a son. It turned out that my in-laws were there because Alex had contacted them. They had hidden and waited for Steve to appear. Tomorrow, I'll deal with Steve. I know a ship captain who's looking for crew members. It's a deep-sea fishing vessel, and once you're on, you can't return to the US for a year. He needs to get on that ship and straighten himself out. In fact, we've been covering all the compensation. He has to listen to us now. As foolish as he is, he's still our dear child. Just laugh and think of us as foolish parents. Every parent loves their child, of course. Michelle, you might have been concerned about Claire. We've returned her money. She was doing well. I'm sorry for the trouble. It must have been hard being so far away. And about the money, we need to return it. No, keep the money. We won't be satisfied otherwise. Sometime later, my father-in-law informed me that Steve had boarded the ship. Whether Steve reforms or not, it's no longer my concern. Now, I'm happy that Alex could participate in a big project at work. I just hope he achieves great results. My relationship with my in-laws is good, and they still visit occasionally. Michelle, you're still young. Life is just beginning. It's too early to grow old. In fact, I've started seeing someone. It's Ted Morris from my company. With my husband's affair and everything, I just thought he was a good person. Going to work and talking to Ted, I realized how calm it made me feel. But it took some time to recognize that my feelings were more than that. It was an emotion I hadn't felt in many years. But now that I'm divorced, I can face those feelings honestly, and I confessed to him. Then, Ted also confessed that he had fallen in love with me at first sight during the interview. Like the seasons, spring has come again for me.